What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We got a big one in store for you today. I got Mike Ledo here, Rise Advisory or Rise Sports Advisors. Welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing? I mean, coming in hot from the combine. I mean,
Yeah. It was a good long weekend.
yeah, some good new prospects and stuff.
Yeah, man. We have about 5-6 guys that are, we really are recruiting hard. We're in the last stages of signing some really good players. They performed really well this past week.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into this, let's tell everybody a little bit about who you are, your background, and kind of where you came from and what you represent today.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana, born and raised, and I was a high school collegiate athlete, played running back, and
St. Francis, right?
St. Francis, yeah. Played in a couple of national championships, was a 2-time All-American, and got a degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. Started my first company when I was in college, so always kind of had that entrepreneurial bug. I was, raised around some very strong men, my uncles, my father, grandfather. One of my uncles was a prominent sports agent, Eugene Parker, has 7 Hall of Famers. And so whenever
Wow, 7 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Woo.
So when you grow up around, Curtis Martin and Deion Sanders and Rob Woodson and Derek Brooks, it's not bad people to, kind of grow up around. So I think when I grew up around that, it gave me the, all people always talk about proximity. Sometimes what's in proximity to you could be good or it could be bad. And luckily with him, my grandfather, my Uncle Virgil, my father, Vincent, I was able to be around some really good, strong men and gave me good examples.
And they taught you a lot of these life lessons, I assume, as well.
A lot of different things.
Yeah.
My grandfather was an old school throwback, singing in the church, owned his own construction company, wasn't a high school graduate from South Carolina. And my dad was a far better athlete than I was in baseball and basketball, and grew up around him. And my uncle's the one that got me to read and study and learn. So all of them just deposited different things in me and gave good examples, good demonstration.
So what did you first start out doing when you first came out of college?
When I first came out of college, when I was a sophomore in college, one of my best friends growing up, Brian Bossier, he was a doctor in physical therapy, athletic trainer, meathead, weight room guy, and when I was in college, we started our first company together. It was a training company, and so we ended up being one of the fastest growing training companies in the Midwest. Ended up owning 3 locations, had over 250 kids go to college. Maybe 100 went D1, 15 to 20 went to the professional ranks.
So coaching and training is like facility.
Coaching, training, physical development, mental, spiritual. We did all that. I ended up merging the company with a $2 billion hospital, and then I ended up selling the majority stake of it to a private equity firm.
Okay, so you don't still operate that today?
No, absolutely not. No,
okay.
I stepped away from that to be in what I'm doing now with Rise Advisors.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Rise Advisors and what exactly you do. Because I know even in the lounge there's a lot of confusion. Is he a sports agent? Is he a financial advisor? What exactly does Mike do?
Yeah. That's the simplistic way to think about it. But so if you're familiar with a family office, the high net worth individuals that usually have amassed a wealth, a net worth of over 25 million, or had like a liquidity event of selling their business, they typically just don't have a financial advisor or an accountant. They have a family office that oversees their whole family and conducts all their business and so on and so forth to assure, generational wealth and good operations. So we have developed a multi-family office, which means you serve more than one family, specifically for athlete entrepreneurs. So we have a niche business that we are a multi-family office for the athlete entrepreneur. And so what we do is we take young men who have had great success on the field or on the court, whatever their field of play may be, and we help them develop a legacy strategy on what they want to be and what they want to do beyond the game. We have created a network of principals, managing partners in private equity, real estate, venture capital that provides our good investment opportunities and deal flow, the mentor and access. And then we provide CFO solutions where, just like any company having a CFO, we oversee all their stuff. So where, whether if it's purchasing a home, doing stuff for family, what they got with a financial advisor, what they did with this investment over here. A lot of times athletes don't have one entity or one group of people that are overseeing all of it, so that's what
I think the common perception is that the agent does all that.
No.
And that they handle multiple things like that, or their network of family does it. And what I found from talking to you is that's really not the case at all.
No.
The agent strictly deals with you and the team pretty much.
Exactly. The agents are the football experts. They help you when it comes to your training, your marketing endorsements, your contract negotiations, and a liaison with the team.
Okay. So how did you find your purpose? It sounds like you really developed this purpose of what you wanted to do. You went from the athlete growing, you said you grew up around it, you watched it. How did you find this purpose or this niche that to you serves your purpose?
Yeah. I like to tell people from time to time that people confuse their purpose with their function. And so like for example, with athletes, they have a lot of identity issues at times because they tend to think that me playing this game is my purpose. And that's just not the case, right? So for me, my purpose hasn't changed when I went from my training organization to Rise. It's the same. My thing is to make entrepreneurs and develop leaders. Now I just do it at a professional rank from a business perspective. Before I used to do it athletically. And so for me, just like every athlete, right? I thought I was going to make it to the NFL, play in the NFL. I was pretty good at a time at a low-level school, and we had a lot of success. And I had ankle injuries, couldn't play, recognized I was a little too small, my body couldn't maintain it. And then it was like, okay, well, let me develop young men because I was always a leader, in that regard. And then when I sold my business to the PE firm, I got exposed to mergers, acquisitions, business development, business strategy, became a passion. And that's when I made the transition of developing athletes just to go to college or the pros and now start helping them become business people because I was the entrepreneur. I went through it. I lived it. I'm an operator. And so I'm on my third business. And so I wanted to transfer that stuff over.
So what are some of the lessons that were really key, you think, from your grandfather, your dad, or your uncles that stick out to you, that kind of led you down this path or maybe inspired you? What do you think some of those key, Man,
that's a good question.
Key lessons were?
It's a good question. I think,
because a lot of people really look for, what was that moment or what were some of those key things that really inspired them or pushed them? Because you see so many people that are like, I don't know what my purpose is, or I've been an athlete my whole life, and I'm not just an athlete. I hear that from a lot of guys that have been on show, not necessarily just on the show, or athletes I have relationships with or been friends with, that they really, there's that struggle when they get out of the spotlight. I know you do a lot to set them up with your clients, and we'll kind of get into that, but I feel like there's probably some key moments or maybe life lessons that maybe you gave them, or even some of the great coaches that you were played under or have worked with.
Yeah, no, I'll give the flowers to, my father, my Uncle Virgil, my grandfather, and my Uncle Eugene, right? Those are probably the most prominent, to be truthful. When it comes to my grandfather, I think it was hard work, and it was family first. I've been told that if you honor your family, God will honor your dreams, right? A lot of us as men, when we're entrepreneurs and we're driven, we're motivated, we go off and we go do all these things, but we forget about the family. And so I think for my grandfather, it was just hard work and honoring the family. I think for my dad, man, that dude just is a gifted communicator. He can make a friend with anybody, you know what I'm saying? And so with him, it was just how to communicate appropriately. how to build relationships, communicate well with people. He used to get on me all the time about my communication and if I wasn't communicating right. So
like what?
Oh man, if I just, homie, when I would go visit him in Atlanta, he would make me read the dictionary and tell him definitions and, all that kind of stuff. So I think with my dad, man, he would get on me about my grammar, probably will still to this day. I don't communicate as good as him. So, that would kind of be my dad. My Uncle Virgil challenged my thinking,
Okay.
He was the reason I started reading. I was a kid that, I think in high school, up to high school, I never read. And then when I got to college as a freshman, I read like 20 books in 1 year, because my uncle lit that fire. And he always challenges the status quo of my thinking, and he's the reason I think I'm open-minded and things of that nature. And then my Uncle Eugene, man, with him, from a business perspective, it was just pursuing excellence, being great at what you do at your craft, and then humble confidence. My uncle was I like to tell people I was just at dinner on Saturday night with David Muguleta, that is right now, the number one agent in the game. And he's probably like the LeBron James of the agent game right now. And if he's LeBron, my uncle was Michael Jordan.
He's new like the Scott Boras, right? That every manager, owner does not want to have to deal with Muguleta.
Yeah. I'm glad that he's doing a contract for one of my guys right now. But, my uncle was the Michael Jordan before him.
Yeah.
That opened the door. And it was really cool. So I was at the Combine this weekend, right? It was dope. And I walk into my hotel. I'm not lying. I posted it on my IG. Walk into the hotel. First day. I didn't even take my luggage into my room. It was this young brother from Dallas. Represents Jeffrey Simmons, I think, the D tackle for the Titans, up for a contract. And he had a hoodie with my uncle on it. And it said The Standard, my uncle's face, and then his name on the bottom. And I'm like, yo, that's my uncle, bro. And so I was going to my room. My cousin, who's an agent now, my uncle's youngest son, comes walking through the door. And my cousin, Austin, looks just like his dad. And so it was just eerie, crazy. Like the dude was there, we're talking. But yeah, so, from my dad to my uncles to my grandfather, man, a lot of the time, especially with young black men, you hear a lot about, and it's the reality for some people, absent fathers, that wasn't my story.
Wasn't your situation.
And I think that's why I can father young men so much and I pour into them, because I was poured into so much.
Yeah, you're just kind of returning that gift.
Yeah, for sure.
What is it that you try to focus on first when you get a new athlete? What is the first path that you try to take them down? Because I think, it's just like when I had Jonathan Scott on here and we talked about his book.
Yeah.
When I read his book, it was written specifically for athletes.
Absolutely, I've read it.
I mean, it's geared straight at the athlete, but I'm not an athlete. I mean, I played high school stuff, but I wasn't even a collegiate athlete. Mm-hmm. So, but I read the book and I was like, man, it kind of sucks. And I wish this was put out in a different way as well, to where an average person would pick this book up and read it, because there's still a lot of really good lessons in this book that you don't have to be an athlete to,
Absolutely.
To take lessons from this book. So, whether you choose to be an entrepreneur or an investor, what's the angle you take, and how do you first bring these new athletes along? Because I think that would apply to, a lot of our listeners and other people, because I think a lot of what you teach and do, it's the high wealth individuals and stuff, but I think there's a lot of people that could be in that gray area or close to that want to learn some of these things. Not that you offer those services probably, but what are some of those lessons, and what route do you take a young player on initially to go down that road? Because I know you and I kind of talked a little bit, and I kind of want to key you on the conversation we had about you don't want to be an investor before you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So for me, one, I like to say at Rise Advisors, I've built and am continuing to build a very strong team. And one of my greatest qualities I've always been is a really good mentor, and I know how to meet people where they're at. But with that being stated, I'm not for everybody.
Right.
I've been accused of being polarizing at times. And so some people, they usually love me or just don't fit with me, and that's fine. right? Like everybody's not for everybody. I don't have an ego into that factor, but I got great guys on my team like Jay Bass who he has a different approach to me. Young, smart guy, relates to people.
I like Jay. Jay's a good dude.
Yeah, great guy, man. And so amazing in finance. And so with that, you know, those people can relate with guys that don't feel with me. But when it comes to me particularly that work with athletes, one, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm trying to help them develop as men first. And in doing that, I want to let them know that this isn't a judgment zone. Now, I'm going to set a standard, and I'm going to hold you to a standard when you say what you want to do for you and your family, and I'm going to keep it real. I'm not kissing your butt. I'm not doing any of that. But it comes from a place of love, but then at the same time, I'm not going to judge you. So at the end of the day, I have to find out where they're at. And they all come in at different levels, right? Some from two-parent homes, some from Stanford, some from other institutions. And so you got to meet some. You can't treat them all the same.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I come in and in that beginning phase, we're trying to get to know each other. And they're going to know that I'm loyal, I'm solid, I'm here to educate you, I'm here to challenge you. I'm not really here to be your friend, right? And so
I think that shows too, because I see you come in with lots of different people, you know, because I'm a member in the private lounge back here. So, I mean, it's not just like rookies and stuff like that too. I think that speaks volumes because I've seen veterans, and I mean like long-time veterans and stuff, that all of a sudden they want to come talk to you. So obviously in there, you know, some of these guys have been in the league, whether it's the football league or baseball, 10, 12 years. And obviously they haven't been provided a lot of this either.
Me personally, not the organization, right?
Yeah.
Because our organization is bigger than me.
Right.
I'm just one person. I just happen to be the founder.
Right.
But I would say that I tend to attract people who want to be challenged and want to grow. If you don't want to be challenged and you don't want to grow, I'm probably not the cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? And so from that, I don't take it lightly that someone trusting their family legacy with me. And so I think it's a calling, and I take it very, very seriously. So like you said, I try to get into that point of them. I challenge their mindset. I try to get them to learn how to think for themselves. It's about empowerment. I am not trying to enable guys. You know, I'm at a place where, you know, when they get to a place, like Jalen Smith was my first client. He's a vet now. He's on the tail end of his career probably, and starting his second career where he's going to be an Uber entrepreneur, and he's closing on a
He's an Uber entrepreneur when he was a rookie damn near. I mean, well, Jalen putting out his own bourbons and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was just there's some exciting stuff that's coming down the pipe with him.
All right.
And he was in training, but I would say that Jalen doesn't do stuff just for optics. You know, a lot of what you see in the professional ranks is optics, the look, the image, what's posted on social, all this. Now, he's committed to the craft of an entrepreneur. And so at his level, right, in the beginning, I had to educate, I had to mentor, I had to develop, and I still do. But at this point now, I help manage for him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things he don't need me for.
Yeah.
He can go do it. He can delegate. I do this while he's doing that, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Right.
So I'm trying to get all my guys on their own path to that same level of independence and entrepreneurship.
How do you weed out some of these guys that look at you maybe and coming in like they just want to add something else to what they do? You know, they see other guys that, you know, have their own bourbon or have this, and how do you handle that, and how do you mentor from that, or decide I'm not taking them on as a client, or hey, this is a growth opportunity here? Because there's probably a lot of guys that, like you said, it's for the flash, it's the optics.
Yeah, it won't work with me.
Yeah.
So one is value alignment. I want to find out when I find out what a man values, I know what he'll do. Right?
Yep.
And so for me, I try to find out what do they value? Do our values align? Do you have the true desire to be an entrepreneur? Do you embrace accountability? You don't embrace accountability, you ain't gonna like us.
Yeah.
Because you know we're helping set the budgets, we're checking the budgets, you're getting monthly reports on what you can spend. You know, if you're off budget, on budget, we're vetting deals. A lot of guys, when they get to the pros and there's so much ego involved, they want all this autonomy because they're their own man to do all this stuff. But with us, there's checks and balances and there's approvals of things. You got accountability set in line to protect yourself. And if a lot of guys don't want that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
they want to live that big paycheck lifestyle.
And so what we see is that at the end of every year we do an assessment with the client and with us, and if it's not working, we just respectfully, separate.
Yes, because I mean, I imagine, and I know I've heard you talk about this before. If you make $13 million a year, you don't want that guy coming in here and living a $13 million a year lifestyle, because at the end of the day, that only lasts for so long, and you're trying to teach them entrepreneurship to where they can get to the point of investing and creating generational wealth for them and their families.
Yeah,
correct?
So you talked about that a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
I kind of get to that. It's the basics 101 of cash flow. Cash flow and having a good cash flow and a good cushion so that you can invest, right? And if you don't have a good enough cash flow and a good enough monthly profit or annual profit, you can't invest. And so what happens with these guys is that what you're going to play for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But after you get done playing with 10 years and you're 30 years old, you're 32 years old, you got about another 30 years to live, right? And so if you just have saved that money and then you plan to live on that money for retirement, do the math. Like, is that money based on the lifestyle that you've accrued and that you started doing? If you can make your ego adjustment, which is not very easy to do.
That's got to be the toughest thing to convince these young guys.
I've been buying Bentleys. I've been buying this. I travel when I want. I do this. I spend $200,000 a year on clothes. I'm doing whatever it may be. And now all of a sudden you want me to change? It ain't that easy for anybody to change. One of the biggest things that we have in life it's very hard for us to reprogram, right? And to unlearn things and
changing your mindset.
New things. But I think it's significantly, now that's just for us, right?
Yeah.
Now be a celebrity.
Yeah.
And that people see you as a certain image and live in a certain way. You think that's easy to change?
Yeah.
And so if you can't get to these guys and educate them and challenge them at a young age, it's going to be very difficult later on. So we look at our success of how are our guys going to live after they've played the game. That's really when we know if we want or not.
So how do you guys deal with that these days? I mean, I've heard you also talk about, and I'm sure it's a big deal with these guys, and, especially this younger generations. Before you didn't have all this social media, big advertising, and all this stuff like that these guys are so worried, and rightfully so, about their optics and how they're presented and what that looks like. What are some of the things you coach young entrepreneurs on to deal with that and the pressures of all that?
Yeah, so I think it's, I focus on athletes, but I think that it's fundamental. A lot of these things are universal principles.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Universal laws. I think the number one thing for any of us in our lives is having people around us that can check our blind spots and help us be aware of things. We are all most dangerous when we're unaware of something. Right? When we're doing damage to ourselves, to someone else, and we don't have an awareness. But what we try to do and what I try to do is make them aware of what I see or what we see and what's going on. And so in today's world, we've always had in this world, money makes the world go around, right?
Yeah.
It's not all things, but it is what it is, right? Especially in America. And so you look at financial capital. Then you look at human capital, which I think is the best thing, right? I put human capital over financial capital any day. Because if I have the right human capital, I can produce financial capital. And me. But now what we have in the new age of where we are now, we have this thing called social capital. And I think that this generation values social capital over human and financial. I heard a young man tell me once, very close to me, he was around some of my business advisors, very, very wealthy people, very successful people, real estate, finance. And he said, I don't want to be one of these guys making hundreds of millions of dollars, but nobody knows me. I'd rather be known. Right? Yeah. That's almost the mindset of this generation when you look at YouTube, TikTok, whatever. They'd rather have social capital, but the bank account really not be that great, right? Because they get their affirmation and they get their acceptance through the social capital, right? Jay-Z talked about fame as a drug, right? Yep. So once you start doing it and that fame starts feeding you and it's gone, it's like, what then? A man makes a lot of money, now you take his money away. So I try to challenge my guys at a young age as far as balance. I think life is all about balance. Money's good if you use it right. Social capital, can be good if you use it right on social media. Human capital is a beautiful thing if you know how to leverage the relationships and serve other people and they serve you. But it's all about just educating them on all those things and helping them think.
How do you transition them once you kind of get them there? How do you logically look at, because I know you said entrepreneur first, then investor.
Yeah.
Why do you set it up that way? And then how do you transition somebody like that?
Yeah, it's three things. It's the athlete first, right?
Yep.
Because wealth is built in concentration and it's preserved.
And they have a very short
bro. And so
period.
A lot of people will say, well, people will say, well, you got to let them focus on football. We do, right? We do. But they've been student athletes their whole life. So they've been able to do two things. Why all of a sudden they can't do that anymore? Yeah. So what we try to do is educate them, but you got to concentrate on football because we're in free agency right now. I have a guy in free agency. It's his success in football is why he's about to make a whole lot of money. But now we have the infrastructure and we've planned to make him an entrepreneur that creates new cash flow streams, right? Yeah. That keeps this high earning potential from football, keep a fraction of it or the same of it still going so that he never has to stop being an investor. Because most of these guys get high earned income. They create no other revenue stream or cash flow stream. Then in the second phase of their life, when they got 30 more years to live, they're no longer investing. It's just, I'm not really investing. I'm saving to live off of that on the second phase of my life. And I think that what happens is it runs dry. We see guys a lot. I live in Dallas. There's a lot of guys that are retired pro guys. I'm able to see their lifestyle, see what's going on. And they're not living it like they did when they was young. And it's for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because they didn't think about that future. They stayed in that moment. Is that where you're seeing some of these guys that are maybe more our generation that are, or maybe the generation right below us that maybe they've had that 6-8 career and that's about to max out, but they're on that last contract where they're starting to find guys like you and
absolutely
and come in?
Absolutely. And I will tell you one of the things that's been confirmation for me, this is going to be our best draft class ever in our organization. It's really going really, really well.
Yeah, I've seen some of these guys come in. Although some of your guys owe me a fantasy year this year in football. I'm not going to name any names, but I had some high hopes for a couple people. Although one of them I am going to give a little shout out because he's definitely my keeper, is Sky. I mean, got his touchdown in the Super Bowl, man. Right. I'm happy for Sky.
I
got a lot of shit for that. They're like, you took this guy in what round? I'm like, he's a keeper. I'm telling y'all, they gave me so much shit.
We love it.
Him and Haskins. I got so much crap for that. And I was like, y'all watch. And y'all going to be mad when I get to keep him for 3 more years and he's a first or second round pick in fantasy football. Talk to me then.
That's my man's. But I hear what you're saying. It's definitely, but one of the things that's been confirmation for me, I was saying earlier, was out of these guys who got in this rookie class, 3 of them, their fathers played in the NFL. They love what we do because they can reflect back on what they did
and didn't do.
That's humbling in this confirmation because they know what they know, where other parents have never run this route, so they might not fully understand our value.
That's awesome, man. That's got to be a big step and a big, like you said, very humbling experience to have a father that may or may not wanted his son to follow in the footsteps or have those pressures, because some of these guys were great players, and then have their son get to that moment and wanting all that and more for them, and then to instantly want them to be on board. That's got to be a pretty amazing.
It's humbling, man. We're in a really good situation, and I'm blessed that God has opened the doors, and we're just trying to be obedient to it.
So, how did you use the word mentor a lot, and I like that, but everybody can't just find a mentor. It seems like you hear people say all the time, well, I'd love to find a mentor. How do I find a mentor? How would you recommend people find a mentor, or how do you find other mentors even at this stage of your game? Because you're constantly around and being introduced to new experiences. How do you look at that?
Yeah, I think finding a mentor, I think, is a couple things, right? So I think it's based on what you see yourself wanting to be.
Yeah.
what you admire, like from a value standpoint, and then what are your weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you can identify where you want to go, what you value in human beings, and then what your weaknesses are, you can then look to see those things in somebody else. They've already gotten where you want to go. They have the values that you value. And then when you look at your weaknesses, there's things that they're actually strong at, right?
Yeah.
And they can do check your blind spots. So for me, I never try to force myself on someone to be a mentor. I let them select me. And then I see if I have the time to pour into them.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I'm looking for certain things, it might be in the lounge, it might be whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing someone and I'm seeing their energy, their vibe. I'm like, you do what? You do this? And it's like, yo, can I talk to you a little bit? Can you feed me a little bit? And so that's kind of my process in identifying a mentor.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, because that's when you're involving yourself in those groups. And that's one thing I talk about with the lounge and lots of stuff like that is finding places that you can go to that create these kind of environments,
bro,
where you can meet other people that are not like you, that have other experiences that you can learn and grow from. Because that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, because I sit and everybody thinks this is like, I'm trying to remember and bring up certain conversations you and I have had over the last 2 years.
There's been a handful.
But these are conversations that we just sit and naturally have. It's not as question-oriented and directly related to doing a show, but these are things we talk about, or that I hear you, I'll overhear you having a conversation with somebody and, hey, man, you mind if I ask you about this? And, hey, tell me a little bit about this. Like, I'm interested. Like, educate me a little bit on X, Y, Z. And you're more than happy to always share that information and do that. And there's so many different opportunities that I always encourage people to find environments like that you can put yourself in. Because I think that's the key to, you having personal growth and success and being exposed to different things.
Man, being in the right environment will either accelerate your growth or stunt your growth.
Yeah.
But being in the right one or the wrong one.
Yeah.
I remember I had an athlete a long time ago from my first company, went to Stanford, played running back. We used to come back to Indiana and challenge me. I said, what you like most about Stanford? He's like, it ain't the education, it's the space that I walk in. It's the opportunity. And I always tell somebody, if you're not happy with your space, change it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If it's not feeding you, change it. And I even for me, like when I moved out here 3 years ago to Dallas to move my business here, the lounge is one of the first places I found where I, just to have peace, decompression, get with, quality men to just kind of vibe and talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so industrial has been great to me. And, I like Pops and the Franks family. They're good people.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. What, man, I totally lost my train of thought. That was, where you had me there. Man, I'm going to bring this up because this is one of those things where you and I had a talk. This is one of those deep conversations you and I had.
Okay.
And I want to get you,
Can we have this on here?
Huh?
Can we talk about it on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
We talk about, we can cuss, we can do whatever we really want. Within a certain realm, right, Vince?
No comment.
No, but I asked you a question one time, and I'll share it with everybody else because I want to know, and I want to challenge people to think about this more, because I couldn't believe that at this day and age people still thought like this on certain things. But I asked you one time, I was like, do you have any white guys that you represent? And you were like, I have, but for some reason, a lot of guys don't relate or have faith in taking advice from a man of color. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's changed at all in the last few years? Or do you think, because to me, there's things that you're exposed to that I'm not exposed to, and there's things I'm exposed to that you're not exposed to. I would want to learn about all of that and find lanes within all of that. So what are your feelings now on that? Do you think that's shifting? Do you think that's changing?
Yeah,
Think it's still status quo?
So let me first say, like you and others, I have very close white friends.
Yeah, I mean, some of your partners too.
And my partners and so on and so forth. And I think that, one man's experience doesn't have to be everybody's experience.
Yeah.
And so I would say that based on my experience, I feel like sometimes consciously and then sometimes subconsciously, it's depending upon where you were raised and where you come from.
Yeah.
It may be hard for a young white man that's going to the league or whatever that, especially if he comes from a well-off home, right?
Yeah.
That, you probably haven't seen a black financial advisor. You probably haven't seen a black CEO.
Yeah.
You probably haven't went to a black doctor. That's not your normalcy.
Yeah.
And so I think that subconsciously for a young man, it's not that they're racist or anything like that.
Right.
But I think that you might question.
Yeah.
Like, man, what is their aptitude the same? Can they absolutely? And even if the young man in the new age feels pretty comfortable, the probability of his parents feeling the same comfort is probably lacking. So when I would tell you that when you look at the NFL, the MLB, you'll see a lot of young men that are black represented by white men. You'll see all the time.
What about
I'm great friends with some great white agents. They represent black, and they do a phenomenal job. But you won't see a lot of white men.
But do you see this changing with because you have a lot more mixed families now, and this younger generation that's coming into the drafts and stuff now, and like a lot more. I mean, I think culturally that mixture is shifting and changing. So do you see that growing a little more?
I think that probably doesn't. I think what I'm saying probably doesn't apply as much to mixed families.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not a mixed family, I think it could be a challenge. And again, this is not an absolute. This is not across the board. It's just an experience and what I think could be a challenge. So for me, I'm a high discerning person. I can discern if I recruit a certain white young man and I walk in the home, I can feel real quick that not only do I have to prove that I'm good in my job and whatever, I have an extra hurdle that I have to go over, and I got to make a business decision when 70% of the NFL is black. That do I really even want to?
Do I want to continue to deal with that? Yeah. I completely understand. What are some of the lessons you've learned from some of your early clients? Like what are some things that have that surprised you that maybe they showed you or they taught you, cause I mean, you're building quite the roster nowadays. So I'm sure there's some maybe funny, maybe just, or just solid good lessons that you've taken from them.
Man. There's lessons from all of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When I think about guys, even like one of my young guys, Blake Fisher.
Yeah.
He's going to be an All-American, and he's going to be a first-round pick next year. I don't know the name, if he decides to come out. And crazy personality, comes from a great family, very articulate, just very, very well-rounded. Sky Moore is probably the most creative client I have. He's like a creative genius, from a standpoint of just anything with Sky.
You got to be smart to be able to put up with Andy Reid. I'm just saying. I said that. He did not say that. I said that.
Right. Appreciate that. Yeah, clarify that. But I just think that, from his artistic and his clothes to video to music to, you saw him rap after the game. If you saw that go viral,
that was funny.
It was dope. And so, Sky just has that. Jalen Smith is a master.
I want to see him rap with Travis Kelce.
Hey, that's his boy.
I know. You told me. I want to see them. I think they need to do a little I don't know, TikTok or Instagram.
It'd be live.
I want to see that. I just think it's gonna be something.
Y'all know he's on Saturday Night Live this weekend.
Who, Kelce is?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's hosting really? Saturday Night Live.
Nice.
Yeah. Kelce's dope, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure
got the personality.
Kelce's dope. You know what I'm saying? Kelce had a black girlfriend, broke up with her. You know what I mean? Kelce's dope. He has the beard gang going.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT at tight end. Kelce's everything, bro. Kelce's everything.
You know, the one thing that me and you talked about, which you turned me on, and it's more about, so you have so many things going on. You're dealing with so many different personalities, young, old, parents, and all that. How do you maintain your level of sanity when you do this? And you introduced me. Everybody knows about energy, vibrations, and all that. But a couple weeks ago, we had a nice conversation. If you guys all notice, every time you talk to Mike, it ends up being a deep conversation.
It's deep, like
everything.
Like
I literally got a
common thing. Like
Stop.
I talked to this dude about the paint on his car, and we ended up discovering the beginning of the universe.
Yeah.
But no, but he suggested 2 books with what I do, being a creative, and then how I was a little off, and he says, "Yo, you got to read this book on vibrations." And it's true when you think about, even when you and I, Garrett, talk, and you're frustrated and you freaked out. If we light up a cigar, everything chills out.
Man, say
mention about your journey with how you discovered your energy, your vibrations, and things like that, and how that keeps you kind of level-headed, especially in the arena that you play in.
Yeah, that's really good. So a lot of things. So like, I think a lot of it I learned from my uncle being very meek. You know, he was meek.
He had to deal with prime time. I mean,
right. He did. He was featured heavily in his book, Money, Power, and Sex. But, you know, he was very meek. You know, a lot of people go into this industry to work in this industry, and either players don't play for the love of the game, they play for what the game gives them. A lot of people that are in my position and work in the game, they want to work in it because of the clout and the hype. I'm not attracted to that stuff. It don't feed me. I don't have a desire for it, right? I'm purpose driven in what I do. And so I think for me, man, my team knows now the first 3 hours of my day are mine. I don't take meetings. I don't do anything. I'm waking up, I'm walking, I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm reading. My first 3 hours, bro, it's mine. And so I got to feed myself because I feed so many people, right?
Yeah.
I'm a single man, you know, looking to find my queen, and whoever it is, they got to be able to feed me with energy, right? It got to be peace because I'm called to pour into a lot of people, and I can't be coming home to, you know, not a peaceful situation.
Can't have an empty cup. How you gonna pour into somebody you ain't got nothing to give?
Right. And so, and I think humbly speaking, even when it comes to that, you know, even just with dating with women and learn, I've grown a lot emotionally. You know, I've always been a very get it done. You didn't get it done, no excuses. And I've kind of softened up and, you know, kind of, you know, balanced in that. But to your point, when I recommended the book, you know, Vibrate Higher Daily,
Yep.
you know, very powerful on, you know, nonverbal communication, you know, energy. You can say that you're fine, but you're really not. You know, what are the, you know, those cues give off? And so then I started really, you know, evaluating my own energy. And so I'm a big Eckhart Tolle guy, you know, with New Earth Awakening, you know. And so from Eckhart to understanding the ego, right? I'm really big on the ego. Managing my own first and recognizing it and dealing with others. And then now with the energy of understanding those things. So like, for me, man, it's all about balance, you know? And I think that sometimes we want to put people in boxes. You know, like I had to get on one of my guys the other day about Sky, you know, after he won that Super Bowl. Sky turning up, you know, Sky energetic. You know, I got to mentor him. I got to coach him. I got to develop him, but I ain't trying to change him. I'm trying to let him evolve. I accept the man that he is and who he is, and he's going to know that. But at the same time, I'm going to help him evolve. And I think that's the difference of, we don't need to put everybody in boxes. That's the issue we got with white and black. That's the issue we got with all this other stuff.
Absolutely.
And you got to be comfortable with that, man. And so just because something ain't packaged like you, don't think like you know, don't mean it's wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So since you touched on it, what does a day in your life look like, and how do you maintain your day? I mean, are you a very scheduled person? Like, is everything on a schedule, or is some of your day? Because I mean, you just said the first 3 hours are mine. That's mine to wake up, walk, meditate, read, do my own personal thing to keep my sanity. And that's the first thing. So that starts at what time do you typically get up? Start really getting to it. Are you like an early bird? Are you like a 5 a.m.er?
It depends. It depends, like, because my first 3 hours are to me. So really, I just let my spirit kind of, like, sometimes I can get up really early. When it's Texas heat out and it's out here, I love walking in my neighborhood. I go walk to a gazebo and I pray and I meditate on that kind of stuff. I just got into boxing, so now I'm starting to box to get back in shape, all that kind of stuff. So, but a couple of things that make me vibrate is, walking. I love reading. When I read, I vibrate. I vibrate high. I smoke cigars. I vibrate high. Meaningful conversations like this, why I always go deep unintentionally, is because it's a love language. I vibrate high. So in those things, to answer your question, because I manage so many people's enterprises and I manage my own business, and I know some people struggle with me that are fluid and spontaneous. I'm extremely structured. Like, I live off my calendar.
Yeah.
So I live off my calendar. I live days and weeks out in advance. I leave room for balance and peace, but then, so I'm very objective driven. There's a great book that we operate our company by called The One Thing. And so we operate on that. Like, what's the one thing I have to get done every week? What's the one thing I have to get done today to win my day? And so I'm very structured like that.
So do you keep your whole day like that? Because obviously you got to keep.
No.
And I found for highly successful people, highly active, highly motivated, however you want to word it, and people that accomplish a lot in a day, the way they set up the day, the way they attack their day varies greatly. There is, to me so far, most have a good amount of structure, allow for flexibility because you never know what's going to come up in a day. But would you say that like 70% of your day is highly structured and you leave 30% to really just go and flow with things? Or more or less of that?
I have to, because I have team members and clients that are going to call me with problems.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I have to solve a lot. So I have to be able to, I can't be overloaded, and I can't be operating my team and I talk about this, I can't operate, like, I can do a little bit of administration work, but I can't operate in things that's going to make me vibrate so low, because what I'm good at, I have to be able to vibrate. If a problem happens, I got to be able to think clearly, have to solve the problem, I have to come and think. And if I spend 3 hours of my day doing administration work, I'm going to be on a low vibration. And then what I'm good at, I can't perform at. So I do leave that space of like 30%.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, if you come in the lounge and you see him with his headphones on, leave the man alone.
Yep.
He's solving some shit. He's vibing in his own head, figuring it out. Because the minute you see them come off, and it's always this magic little moment, like somehow the noise canceling just goes out enough that he hears us talking about something. He's like, yo, wait a minute, did you just say
that's funny,
XYZ? And then you are now, and we are about to go down the mic train, and we are going to talk deep about whatever little tidbit he caught somehow when he was like zoned out in his world, but he still heard this.
That's funny, bro.
That's so you. Like, I mean, like, man, that's why you
observing me like that, bro?
Dude, I think it's awesome. And I love having these conversations with you because, like, again, every time we get into them, I vibe higher off of having a deep, meaningful conversation and learning something. And every time one of those moments happens, I'm like, yes, here we go. We're about to get some golden nuggets from Mike. Something happened, something just clicked, and maybe he just heard XYZ, and it helped him, like, put that little piece in the last bit of the puzzle, and now he's ready to talk about it because it's probably spinning off of that other thing you're trying to solve or work with, and you want to know more about it because you're about to dive off over here, and it just happens to be that weird vibe that happened and you heard it.
I just feel like, man, to your point on the 70-30, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I just think it's all about, I'm going to keep saying it, it's about balance.
Yeah.
And I think that whether if it's you, whether if it's me, whether if it's Biz, like, we got to leave room for our creativeness. You know what I'm saying? For our growth. And if we don't leave room for that, bro, we just don't expand, right? We just can't be out here just doing. Just doing. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't have any purpose at that point. Like if you're just
Well,
you're like an order taker, you're not
Right.
really you're not doing anything creative.
Yeah, you know,
you're not feeding the soul.
Simon Sinek talks about the golden circle, right? The why, the how, and the what. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like one of my advisors, Rob, said at our symposium last year. Biz was there.
Yep.
And he was dope, and very, very, very successful. And Rob said, you got to go 5 whys deep. 5 whys deep. You know, when you want to do something, ask yourself 5 times why. 5 times, why am I at this podcast? 5 times, boom, boom, boom. Ask yourself why. And so it takes you to a deeper level. I guess that's why I'm so deep all the time. I'm going 5 whys
Yeah.
deep. But
That's why it took me since like September last year when I started this to get Mike pinned down and confirmed.
I was processing.
He asked himself for 5 months. Why?
That symposium was so difficult because I was in charge of capturing it media-wise.
Yeah.
So I'm holding a camera in one hand and I got pen in my notebook in the other hand, trying to do both because, like, the stuff that was delivered at this thing, like you said, whether you're an athlete or not, it was the basic common sense things that were being delivered.
Yeah.
I was like, and to see all these athletes, Sky, Jalen, all of them was sitting there, notebooks, notepads, iPads, everybody was out
man.
taking notes, taking it all in.
I got to go to this symposium the next time he has one. Like, I definitely want to be there to witness this. I mean,
yeah. I've had close friends and different people that I trust and love, challenge me on like, I don't know. And I'm always open to good, honest feedback, constructive criticism. They're like, Mike, are you caught up in people's status or how much money people got or, and if you know me, I'm not. Like, I don't even know what half the people in the cigar lounge do. I don't know what they're worth. I don't know how much they make. I really don't give a damn. Like, my uncle that's one of my mentors that taught me to read and challenge my thinking. I swear, bro, for half my life, I didn't even know what my uncle did for a living.
yeah.
I don't even know what he did because his whole thing was like, most of us, when we talk to people, we say what we do because we identify with it. My uncle said, I don't tell people what I do so they can't put me in a box.
Wow.
And so my whole thing is like, because I've been taught on that, but what I am attracted to is people that, like this right here, I'm attracted to people who want to learn, want to grow. I don't know what you're worth. And it really don't, because what you're worth isn't just based on finance.
Yeah.
That's the confusion. That is a part of a worth. But a part of your worth is also your spirit, your heart, your knowledge, all those different things. It's just not monetary. And so for me, I attracted that to where someone can feed me, I can feed them, man. That's
emotional IQ too.
Man,
It's not just
exactly.
a financial IQ, it's emotional IQ. It's how you deal with people, how you talk about. I mean, I think it's funny. Y'all probably noticed I'm wearing a button-up collared shirt for probably the first time on my podcast site. Because
I didn't recognize him when he walked in.
Bro.
I mean,
if they could shoot a shoe game right now, everything, the whole thing is there, bro.
Well, I wasn't gonna let you outdo me either. I knew you were coming in from the combine.
I don't have no swag, bro.
Bullshit.
Like, I'm working on it, bro.
He's lying, y'all.
I'm working.
Lying.
I don't, bro.
I knew he was gonna come in one way or
Y'all
another.
can't see my face off camera with the twisted lips. Like, I don't know what emoji it is I'm giving you right now, but
Yeah.
Word.
I'm getting that mind blown.
Word.
Biz is popping his head off emoji right now. But yeah, I was like, man, he's coming in from the combine. He's been meeting with people. I was like, man, no, everybody knows. I mean, I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy, Like, I was just gonna come in here wearing t-shirt and jeans. I was like, no, I can't do it. I finally got Mike to come on the show. I can't come in here and be sitting here in a t-shirt and he's getting fresh off the plane coming from the combine.
Man,
I was
bro.
like, whew, can't do it.
I hope we get some views on this thing. I can't disappoint, dog. We got to get some views on this.
Oh man, it's growing.
all right,
It's
so
growing.
I have a question. How many chapters of your book have already been written?
Oh yeah, you know my book.
No, I know you writing one. There's no way, and we haven't discussed this or said this, y'all, but there's no way with the experiences and lives that you had where you're growing that you haven't started, you haven't planned, or there's a manuscript on something somewhere in your spot.
So I have I've thought about it. I have some stuff written out. But one of the things I'm big on, I always refer back to my Uncle Virgil, man. He's just been probably the biggest depositor into my life, you know, in my older age. I think in my younger ages, it was kind of like my grandfather and my dad and a little bit my Uncle Eugene before he passed away, unfortunately. But my Uncle Virgil has been the one that challenges me, makes me grow, whatever. And one of the things he told me, if I talk to y'all right now, I talk to Biz and someone tells me a book, I get it off of Amazon, I just put it in my shelf. But my uncle always said, don't read just to read. Read based on what your spirit tells you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get the book, but I'm going to let my spirit lead me to where should I be reading this right now or should I be reading something else? So I say all that to say, I have a vision for a book, but it's not the season.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting till when it's the right season. Like, you know, even with doing a podcast, this is my third podcast I've done this month or in the past, 3 weeks. I haven't done a podcast in 4 years. Now, I used to have one way a long time ago. I used to speak publicly. I stopped speaking because when I speak, I'm going to be authentic.
Yeah.
And so I was in a situation where I'm like, hey, I'm going to stop. And right now, I like to say I'm pregnant with a lot of stuff. I've been stewing and whatever, and now it's time to birth. And so now, part of the reason why I didn't get on the podcast was because it was about the sensitivity in my spirit of when is the timing. And so now I've been pushed where it's timing where I'm getting out here, I'm sharing what we do, who I am. And so I think eventually the book will come here when it's
Well,
it's
and you've
time.
gotten a comfort level with what it is you're doing, what you represent.
Yeah.
Your company's at a point where
Yeah.
you're not the new guy on the block.
Yeah.
You're not out there really just having to grind for business.
Yeah.
Now business is getting a little bit easier.
A little bit.
Because people know who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
They don't think you're some fly-by-night guy faking to be an agent or,
Yeah.
Trying to, pull fast one over on one of these young up-and-coming players.
Yeah.
People know your character. They know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And that's got to feed into it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we're not as hot as, like, Lady Jade and stuff, I know you just did the big Lady Jade show, so,
Yeah.
He put us off a week for that, by the way. I'm just kidding.
I would too.
I would too. I'm not lying.
Lady J
gotta
called
have
me.
your priorities in line.
You're gonna be without a producer for one night. She said, hey, Busy, come here.
Right.
Yeah.
See how he does me, y'all?
I'm gonna use PTO. I'm gonna call in sick.
PTO.
That night.
Come on, Biz. You see where Biz loyalty at.
No, we had an agreement because last time Biz was sick, he came in here. I thought he was gonna die over there.
I was here.
Like, bro, we can do.
Because the Biz a throwback.
I know, but
Old school.
if you are that sick, bro, I don't want to be sick. I don't get sick very often, but he literally looked like he was dying over there.
I saw the light twice that night, but we reeled it back in.
Yeah, Biz does not call in sick. Like, that does not happen. Biz does not mess up his schedule. Biz is on point.
But to that point, I'm trying to figure out my vibration because I'm spinning too many damn plates.
Yeah.
And one failed the other week, and I was like, oh, hell, what was that? So it's like, you just have to figure out, I'm taking an assessment test later on tonight to figure out what are my strengths. And once your core strengths are,
Come on now.
that'll let you know the things that you can't do or not meant to do, you delegate them to somebody else.
Yeah.
So you can focus on what value you can bring to yourself, your family, or others you decide to serve.
Yeah, one of the tools we use through EOS that one of my clients invested in.
What is EOS?
The Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
It's off of a book called Traction. And so one of my clients.
I got that book.
Yeah.
Haven't read it, but I got that. Okay.
So one of my clients invested in that. Jalen Smith's an investor into that.
Okay.
A long time ago. Great investment for him. But we use them on our companies, and one of the tools that we use, what Biz is talking about, is a thing called Elevate, Delegate, right? Or Delegate, Elevate, my apologies. And so with that, it's really that when you delegate the things that you don't enjoy, you elevate. And so it's really identifying what those are to delegate and then elevate in what you do. But you have to have an identification of what those things are first.
We fail so much trying to guess. You really needed a tool to let you know what's going on. You may think you ain't going to have a heart attack, but you find a couple tools that's going to let you know you're about to, you'll listen to it. You know, I may think my strengths are one thing, but when you look at something that's proven that can tell you it's another,
Right.
I think it also helps because it gives you a fresh perspective of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're more energetic to follow a new path. Because, when you wake up in the morning and see the sun, the birds, it feels like a clean slate. And when you have that clean slate, what we talked about earlier, you can tackle everything first thing in the morning because you're at your sharpest and you're at your freshest.
Right.
But at least know what it is you're going after when you do it.
Man, exactly, bro. Exactly. So, yeah, man.
What are some of the tools? Are there tools or specific tests? Like, I know when my mother worked at MHBT, they put everybody through, I'm going to get this totally wrong. This is not correct, but basically like a Wonderlic test, where it identifies what you're really good at, what your weaknesses are, stuff like that. Do you go through a process like that with your clients? Is there stuff you specifically use or recommend for people that one of us could go out and find this test or get this test and like elevate ourselves and find those things out for ourselves?
Yeah, we use a handful of personality assessments. Obviously you hear about the Myers-Briggs all the time. And
yeah, that's it. That's what they use.
Yeah, we use one called Work Styles, Live Styles, and then Tommy Shavers in Nestry. Nestry is a company based in Orlando, Florida, that Jalen Smith invested into, that Tommy's getting a lot of looks. I was telling you guys about it earlier. I just had a deep conversation with him. He's talking to all the NFL teams, all this stuff, where really it's about mental development, mental health. And so that's what he's doing, but he's doing mental health scientifically, right? So we talk about mental health by communication. Tommy Shavers in Nestry talks about mental health from a scientific approach, and he is amazing. So I'm going actually with some of my clients to Orlando to go visit Nestry so that they can get tested, get the feedback scientifically on who they are, how they tick, all those kind of different things. So definitely shout out to Tommy and Nestry.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds absolutely amazing. See, that's the kind of stuff I love. I love hearing about and learning about, because if you can find some tool or something like that that really gives you that kind of perspective on you, your spirit, your personality, there's so much knowledge to gain from that. And surrounding yourself with people like yourself and Biz and others, we kind of give each other some of this feedback naturally around here. But, I like to have that for the audience as well, that, finding those things, because getting that kind of feedback, Biz and I had a one-on-one tonight, because any of y'all that watched last week's show, Randy is a powerhouse in the podcast universe and in bourbon universe. And Randy, I went to high school with. He's a good friend of mine. He deeply challenged me and gave me a whole lot to think about after last week's show. It rocked my world.
Really?
Yeah.
This dude was crushed when he left.
In a very good way. Like, in a very good way, but yet
when I say crushed, I don't mean like in a bad way. Like he said, he was just like...
It made me question everything.
Yes. It was a floodgate.
Because it was a whole different perspective than the way I've been looking at my podcast, which is not my day-to-day business. Like, I don't do podcasting for a living. This is something I enjoy to do.
Right, it's a passion.
And that, it's a passion, because I like having these meaningful conversations with people, and I think that others can gain from it. So learning how to take that and grow it and share it with more people is my biggest challenge. And in voicing that and discussing that, and how Randy took his show from where my show essentially is now, 4 years later, and trying to digest the information he's sharing with me, and trying to not have some of the same pitfalls, trying to take that in, have more direction, fine-tune our plans, and, do all that. He literally blew my mind. I mean, like, I wasn't crushed like Biz says, and like he just told me,
not in a bad way,
my show is shit, and this all sucks, and you should just go back to doing your day job. It was like, wow, I thought I was just really starting to figure a lot of these things out, and in reality, there's all these other perspectives that I hadn't even really thought about or considered or contemplated. And man, I mean, I went home and I couldn't even sleep that night. Like
that's what I mean by crushed. It was so much information.
Writing all night long and like, all right, what do I think about this? What do I think about that? Who can I talk to about this? How can I do this? How can I make this happen faster? How can I do these things? And it was growth, you know. And I immediately, like the next morning, I was like, Biz, yo, we got to have a meeting next week. Like, let's have a pre-show meeting. What day? Unfortunately, Biz was like in and out of town. I was like, all right, fine. This date, we're having a meeting. And like me and Biz said, and we did that for an hour and a half tonight before any of this happened. And we sat there and, you know, really went through that. And I mean, I got more of Biz's perspective because Biz was involved in that conversation. So he got to sit there and take that in. He had a little different perspective than I did. He was able to ask me questions that spurred further thought and contemplation, but yet then I gave it back to him in a certain way of where I was at,
you know,
and we're going back and forth with it, you know. So like that's the stuff I love, and like I'm curious because you do that all day long for a living.
Yeah, I you know what I think is so dope about that, you know, to listen to you having the humility, right?
Yeah,
and the openness to receive whatever those constructive criticisms were, to digest them.
Yeah.
To get with Biz, you identify some things, you discuss it, and then you get to solving.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, right? And so, but sometimes your ego won't allow that. One of the books I read talked about how the person who actually is wrong in a conversation is the person who's winning.
Yeah.
Because if you're always right, you're never learning.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you go to an approach of conversation of going, if I talk to you and you are actually right and I'm wrong, I won.
Yeah.
You won that day.
Yeah.
Right? You won. If you wouldn't have went in that and you wouldn't have been wrong, you would not have won. So I think that is the thing for me, man, when you can put that aside and talk to people and you can receive. Some people want to be right and some people want to be effective.
Yeah, but failures are also growth opportunities.
Failures are lessons.
And in that too. So since we're there, what are some of the biggest failures that taught you the greatest lessons?
Bro, come on. Like, man, come on, bro.
Like, what is something you thought was the right way early on with your business? Be it the one you sold
Are you talking
or your
about business,
current one?
Personal? Both?
It could be both. Whatever comes
made
to mind.
an impact on you. What made an impact on you that
impact.
changed the direction?
That you thought this was the right way. You had to learn this lesson the hard way, and now all of a sudden
I would say
you learned and grew from it.
My approach being having my son at 18 and how I raised my son in certain facets as far as like pushing him, wanting too much for him and stuff. As a father, until I read a book my uncle sent me, it was too late. My son was 18 at that point. I was like, damn, wish I could have got that book 10 years ago. So anybody I know, I always recommend. But, I think my son, I got divorced, after being married for 16 years. And, some of that just wasn't the right fit, but then some of it was, shit I did, what I'm saying? And you learn from that now that you get out into to dating at 40 years old. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can't even imagine.
You got to look at yourself the hard way. But yeah, it's a different game out here. But, so I think in that, and then I think just in my first business, man, I ran that business for 15 years, sold a majority of it, had some good ups and downs, partnered with some people that had some good up and downs, went through some almost litigation type like stuff, just different things. And man, those kind of things are what I wouldn't be the entrepreneur. I wouldn't be the leader. I wouldn't be able to solve problems. Like that shit was hell. But when you look at it now, wisdom comes from experience. You can't gain wisdom without experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Absolutely.
why these great quarterbacks in the playoffs, you get these young dudes that all y'all be geeked on in fantasy football through the regular season, and then they get into the postseason and they garbage because they ain't got no wisdom, they don't got no experience. I heard someone say that wisdom is knowing what not to do, right? And you can't know what not to do until, unfortunately, you do some things wrong. And so I just kind of think about those things.
So how hard is it we had a conversation earlier, and this is a problem I have. I have a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And being 51, relating to a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
it's hard. So, like, I DJ. Everybody knows I DJ. So when I'm DJing events, playing half the shit they listen to, I'm dying inside slowly. Take my headphones off. I go to the bathroom and come back. Okay, record's almost over. Let me get back to the real. But do you find it difficult with a little bit of a, you're 40, and you're now talking to 19, 20, 23-year-olds. Is it hard to deliver that message where my grandmother used to always tell me, I'm just trying to tell you I've already been to where you're trying to go. So I'm trying to help you so you don't have to bump your head like I did because I've already traveled that path. But is it hard to get that message to your clients, especially the younger ones, because of the generational gap? Or do you find them to be a lot more savvy than we give them credit for, to listen to the advice or to understand the path that you're going, or try to put them on?
Yeah, so Jay Bass usually works with those guys.
He delegates that, is what I just heard.
Because that's your strength, or the way you may deliver it, or the way you can relate.
Yeah, Jay thinks like a 40-year-old, but he's really 28, right? And so, but he can relate with those dudes and do whatever. I ain't got no ego. Like, I can recruit a guy and I can sign the guy and he can be the first round pick. But then if I recruit him and I get him, and I think Jay Bass is better for him from a relationable standpoint, you know what I'm saying? We just delegate because we're a team, and it's about, it's all about the effectiveness of, getting the job done and who can most relate. The one thing I found is like, and you read this, Biz, in Vibrate Higher Daily, it talks about the wrong person. The wrong person isn't a bad person. The wrong person just ain't the right person for you.
Yes.
And so when you look at that, I no longer look at it that way. Like, the wrong person don't mean that they're a bad person. It's just not a good fit for me, or I'm not a good fit for them. And I have no ego in that. A lot of people in my industry, man, when you lose clients or they recruit them and they don't get them, they just be like so emotional and whatever. I don't be on that. Like, I get with a dude, they don't sign with me because I go into it that I don't think they need. My ego's not big enough to think that you need me to be successful. I think I add a value, right? But my value is only as good as you see. I can't force you to see value in me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't force your woman to see value in you. You can't control that. Either she sees it or she doesn't, So I just think, man, when you manage the ego and do the shot, and you can't force someone to see something in a season that's not meant for them to see it either.
So
I just had this conversation with the other sales guy at my company that I do my day job. He's a younger kid. He grew up in the construction industry. And Mason, shout out to you. If you're actually listening, I doubt it, but we'll throw it out there anyways. You're going to have to go back and listen to hear that I actually gave you a shout out. But, I've told a lot of other sales guys that have worked at our company before.
Right.
Not that it got taken to heart and it never worked out to where it was actually the right scenario. But there were times that, like, early on in my career, I went after a client or a certain relationship, and I realized, like, me and this guy do not vibe. Or this is a bad job. We need to walk away from this job. And then my bosses would say, why are we walking away from this? Well, here's all the information. I don't think this is a good deal, but any of y'all want, here's all the information you need to close this deal. This is what you need. If you want to pursue it, go right ahead. For me and personally, I don't think this is a good deal.
We've all heard the phrase, right?
Yeah.
We've all heard the phrase, all money ain't good money, right?
Yeah.
We like to say that we don't try to recruit our own problems.
Yeah.
Exactly. You go and you get money up front, but that problem ain't worth the money.
Yeah, some headaches aren't worth it. And, and it's the same thing I've told this other sales guy, and he's the first one out of all the different sales guys we've had. Him and I, it's a good, because he's kind of country.
Okay.
He's a little different than me.
You're not country?
I'm not country.
You're not?
No.
I've been confused this whole damn time.
Oh,
No.
man.
I thought you was a country bumpkin.
No.
I mean, like, I'm not country in the way that he's country. I mean, like, I moved around every 3 years.
Can't you be a new age country? Can like we put a spin on country?
I mean, I could probably do it. I mean, I'm down. I mean, I'll give it for you, but I mean, I'm either gonna vibe with people or not.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've told him. I was like, in the end, it's about the relationship you're building. Because in the end, if you don't have a relationship with that client, it's not always the price. You know, like there is a price, and sometimes that job is about price. But in the end, whether you get that second look or the last look, some of that comes down to your relationship. And if I know consistently that me and ex-client are not vibing, but yet every time we're at XYZ event or they're around the other sales guy, like, all right, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's work this out. Let me make the introduction. Let me help you. I mean, because it's going to help all of us make money in the end. But if you actually vibe with this guy and have it, like he's the first person in the history of our company that like, him and I actually have a shared client. Like, that is so rare in what we do. And other guys have said they should all be like that. Well, no, because you kind of like, it's still sales and it's competition and, you know, you've got time and energy invested and there can be some other things that tie in and twist that. But overall, when it comes down to a specific client, why would I keep hanging on to a guy that's giving me very little? And because deep down I know him and I just don't vibe on that same level. Like, as much as I want it,
it's not going to be fruitful.
It's not going to be fruitful, and I'm kind of just wasting my time and killing time because at the end of the day, we don't see things the same way or we don't vibe the same.
And it's costing you vibration.
And it's costing me a lot. I mean, time, money, energy, whatnot. So like, why not, if he is that fit, pass that on? I mean, if that other person is not that fit.
The only way you're not going to do that is if you caught in your ego and you're trying to prove people wrong.
Exactly.
That you can't do it. But if you can be,
and I've been guilty of that too. You know, there's been times where it's just like, no, I'm not letting it in. Like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm gonna keep fighting. Yeah. I'm gonna keep keeping the game. I'm not giving this up. But you know, he's the first one that I've been able to do that with, and we've been able to share those things and be like, all right, hey, let's just share this account. Let's just see which way this shakes out because right now neither of us are really there. Let's just handle it and see what comes of it.
So do you also, we're talking about young and fresh recruits. Do you deal with people that have been in the league for a while? Do you get those and people that are on their way out that are looking for, how do I plan for my,
you
know.
Hey, you don't remember last week when we were trying to get in here and he strong-armed us with a guy with one arm. I'm not going to name any names, but he had a sling on and everything else, and I was still scared and intimidated. Like, Mike's pushing us out. We're pushing him out, and he's like, hey, just because you only got one arm right now, don't think you can't still handle business.
Come on. Come on. Yeah. Dude had 8 sacks this year. He's a good player.
But so you do deal with clients that have been in for a minute.
Yeah. So
now, are they easier, you think, because of their knowledge, or is it harder?
It's interesting. That's a tough question, bro. So, like, think about it like this, right? Is it easier to build a house from scratch at the bottom and lay a good foundation, or is it coming to fix it later? You know what I'm saying? So in some regards, when we get vets, they have a lot more money, but most of the time they ain't coming to us if everything was Gucci.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so
true.
they coming to us like because we got to fix some things. So now we got.
But are they more open?
Well, sometimes, you know, they're open, sometimes they're not. You got to come in and fix them some things. You got to tell them that, you know, woo. And so what happens is this, I said this the other day, what's normal always isn't right. And what's right always don't feel normal. So there's some things they've been doing for a while that feel real normal. And then we got to help them change things, and it don't feel real right.
Change is uncomfortable.
Back into the gym, you got to change their mindset.
But one of my old football coaches told me no change equals no change. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of got to get to a point where we can do that with those guys. So, yeah, we work with vets, and we also do consulting for athletes that own businesses. A lot of them got the bread, but they don't have the structure or experience. They got the aptitude. It's just experience. And so we'll come in and kind of give them some tools, some structure, some advisement, some guidance that if they got a business and it's not optimal, to try to help them get it to that point.
Do you also, so you guys do you have one sport that's more prominent than the other, or do you advise athletes in all sports?
Well, you know, way back in my day, many pounds ago, I used to play football. So, you know, I come from that, having a training company, doing that, be my uncle. So that's my sweet spot as far as I know the game really well, better than probably most people walking on the streets. And so you know, that's just by default.
I love that too when we have those deep football conversations. Love that.
But basketball, I don't know a lick about. I just like LeBron.
What about baseball?
And then baseball, I'm garbage. But Jay Bass on the basketball.
They make that bread though. Baseball.
We trying to get there. But you know, I just gotta.
Said you need to think about baseball, Mike.
Oh,
baseball, Mike.
I don't need to be convinced.
But watching the baseball game is like watching the paint dry in a snowstorm.
They need to cut that season in
oysters.
half. Like let's just be real. They're doing a lot of things to speed up the game, but if baseball would cut the season in half, I mean, same thing with basketball, I think. Like basketball, look at all these players sitting out, not playing games. Like, that's going to start to have its toll and effect at some point, and it's going to force these leagues to really consider
How you going to make up that revenue? How you going to make up that revenue?
I was just about to say, we just had the conversation about
How you gonna
money.
make up that revenue?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of creative ways to do this. I mean, I'd have to really think about that. I mean, like that many games, but I mean,
you gonna cut the games in half, so you
No,
know
don't
that
cut
if you
the
take
game in
take
half.
away the volume, you got to increase the price.
Even when the normal season
increase your TV deals and stuff. I mean, they all said get away from cable and go to those independents, and now you got 10 different subscriptions and you're paying more than you were paying just for that one.
But think about it.
I mean, it's all going up.
When the regular season is over in any other sports, they just create another league and keep going. NFL's over, so now XFL is on.
Or here's this. I got an idea. Shorten the regular season and then make the tournament for the playoffs and the championship a little bit bigger. For baseball and basketball. That does not work for football. Although they just kind of did that with football.
In college. You talking about with the season?
Yeah, with the season. If you shorten the basketball season and the baseball season, but, you know, let's just say basketball, let's say, you know, 8 teams make it in. Let's make it 12 and make the little playoff bracket. Maybe there's more games in the playoff bracket. They're all 7-game series or whatever. Same thing with baseball. If you let the bracket be a little bit better, who's hot right now? Who's going? All right, you got 32 teams in baseball. Let's get down to the 16 best teams. You other 16 get to go sit over here, but these 16 are going to play, and we're going to have a legit series, like for each one, and break it down a little bit there.
I'd rather watch
the regular
bowling.
season down, and you have more play. How many people do not watch? I mean, like me personally, baseball. Grew up playing it my whole life. Love baseball. I don't watch baseball during the regular season, except for very key.
What you play, second base, shortstop?
Key matchups. No, I played catcher, center field, and second base.
You like a catcher.
Catcher, second base, and center field.
Yeah.
So
But that's kind of true. I don't watch basketball regular season, but I love watching when it's the playoffs.
But in baseball,
me too.
you watch
Me too.
you watch
Yeah.
select matchups. But how many people watch the playoffs and the World Series in baseball? You don't watch shit
When you get to
else
the World
all
Series.
year. Yeah, see, you only World Series. But if those games meant a little more, you might watch some of that. True. You're not watching the regular season because there's 100 and something games. It's
Football
ridiculous.
NFL has it mastered.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you can't do that with baseball. But you got to find a way to reduce that a little bit to where your superstars aren't getting injured all the time.
Yeah.
You're thinking about player health, mental and physical, and get these guys where you're getting, even though you may have less games, you're getting better games. The quality goes up.
Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. Absolutely.
But you got all these other sports. Like, here's the biggest sport. What's the biggest sport on the planet?
Soccer.
Exactly. You've got athletes like that. I don't know what they get paid if they get. I don't really hear a lot about entrepreneurial things in soccer, but I know they get paid. But we got FC Dallas. I don't know that. You got a lot of tennis is coming up, and golf players been making that bread. Yeah. So but they're not. They're more niche, I guess you could say. Well, not soccer. Everybody.
I just got to hire someone to work with them because I can't. I probably won't be able to relate with them.
Right.
But we get to that standpoint because I think that you got to be credible. What we do, we got to be relatable. So humbly, you got to have someone that knows that sport.
It's not that time yet. What did you just say earlier? Just like the book on creativity. I bought the book. I started reading. You said, I haven't read it yet. I was like, wait a minute. You said you had it. Doesn't mean you read it yet. It's on the shelf waiting. Yeah. It's no different than this. Those sports is on the shelf.
You guys, those contracts are guaranteed. That's insane money that goes around in baseball.
So what the hell else do you do when you ain't doing what we've been talking about for an hour and a half?
Besides smoke cigarettes and jam out on your headphones.
Cigars.
Yeah,
you just cursed.
Man, I did.
I love live music, bro. So I love music. I'm always in a lounge. I might be somewhere listening to jazz.
We gotta talk later.
Or I might be at a sophisticated ratchet spot. Like, I'm balanced.
Is there such thing? Yeah. A sophisticated ratchet spot?
Yeah. Like, for example,
eloquently shoot each other at the end?
So when I
think he's playing pickleball.
When I go to the crib tonight, right? When I leave here, I go to the crib. I'm going to go watch the last episode of Yellowstone, right? Season 5. And then right after that, I'm going to watch Snowfall. So
it is Tuesday.
So,
have you watched The Mayor of Kingstown yet?
Watching it right now.
Mayor of Kingstown? What's that on?
So
Paramount.
The dude Taylor Sheridan that does Yellowstone, he did. Have you watched Tulsa King?
We just started that.
Man, just Taylor Sheridan dude is
I'm
a
focused
genius.
on Yellowstone right now, bro.
They've already got 2 other series attached
1823 and 1923. Yeah, 1883.
1883 and 1923.
Dope.
All still tied to the Yellowstone.
It's all the predecessors to Yellowstone.
I'm letting them get some seasons out.
What's that streaming on?
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus.
Man, that's too many of these streaming things. They hustling, bro. I already feel like I'm on 4 or 5 of them things, and I'm paying cable.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
man,
you need to cut the cord.
Get rid of cable.
Come on, bro.
Get rid of cable.
Well, I gotta watch my guys' games, bro.
They got the season passes
Come
on YouTube TV.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, when you listen to this, you need to hook your boy up and teach him how to cut the cord and still be able to watch all his boys.
You paying $500 a month to watch Yellowstone or some football games.
Put my business out there. Yeah, right.
Oh, that ain't no secret. Everybody else doing it too. Got that direct TV when the weather get bad, you got to pray you can watch something. Everybody be frozen until the storm is over.
Mike still got that big satellite dish from 1989.
Mine is still sitting up on my house too.
Looks like he's trying to look through a telescope at the Milky Way.
Judging, man. We just got to talk about judging people. You're here judging me on my satellite.
I'm getting a new roof put on in a couple of weeks. I'm like, hey man, can y'all take that direct TV crap off my house?
Get that thing out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's been good.
Right on. Well, man, what if you had to leave, not wishing any ill will or anything. This is one of the questions we asked, but I feel like this is a good time to ask you. You mentioned your son just a minute ago. If you could leave him with one piece of advice, what would you leave your son with?
Sheesh.
That part.
Man, I'm picking up on these little phrases, man. These phrases, man. I would say, for my son, bro. I would tell him to embrace who he is, right?
Yep.
Embrace who he is, and then I would tell him to embrace who he is, love his family, and master finances.
What life lesson would you hope that he picked up from you?
That you can do anything you put your mind to. You don't have to be the smartest person. You don't have to. If you commit to something and you put your mind to it, you can get it done.
When you're recruiting these younger players, what does that process look like for you? Do they find you, or do you? What's your scout? I guess what I'm asking, what's your scouting look like? How do you identify the player that you think, especially when it's a young kid, 18 to 21-year-old that's coming out of college, typically, how do you identify that player or person that you want to have a conversation with and that you want to consider doing work with?
So we first, obviously, they're athletes. So let's just use football. That's our primary sport. Is we identify if we think this person is a person that can projectingly be a starter or a Pro Bowler at the next level, right? That's our kind of client. Top 100 draft pick or you're a starter at the next level. So that starts there. Then we identify, does this person have an interest in entrepreneurship? Starts there. Does this person have good character and do they value accountability? Are they more about building a legacy than they are enjoying their current life? And so if all those things check off and they're coachable, but that's a process, right? It starts with they're good. Then as you get to know somebody, you kind of learn those things. And then one of the things we do now, because as we built our reputation and our brand, is referrals. If an agent or a close friend or someone tells me, Mike, he's not a Rise guy, I don't even blink. I don't care if you're a top 10 pick. If someone I trust tells me, it could be you. You could be around someone, someone, and I'm like, yo, is he a Rise guy? You're like, nah, he ain't. I sat on a whole podcast with you, listen to this dude don't fit.
Yeah.
I'm not so driven by wanting to sign him because of his potential that I'm going to recruit my own problem. So a lot of it's assessing those things, and then it's just referrals, good quality referrals.
Are you being approached now? I mean, I know you don't do a lot in basketball or stuff like that. I'm going to use D1 and, these other select teams that, come out now, and you see these kids getting signed to letters of intent when they're in like junior high and high school and stuff like that. But now that you're going into baseball, where baseball really starts in high school, are you seeing that you're being reached out to by the parents or people like at a much younger age, or is it still staying at the collegiate level?
It's still collegiate. And we haven't jumped into baseball, basketball yet, but I think in the next 12 to 24 months, we should be launching divisions in baseball and in basketball with someone that is experienced in those sports.
Okay. And I don't think I've asked this yet. What does your team look like? Like, tell us a little bit more about your team and the people that make up the team, the people that you put your clients around. What does that consist of? What areas are you going into? Because I mean, everybody's concerned about, even people that don't have a lot of money that are trying to find ways to invest and grow. In the type of economy we're in right now, they're looking at everything. So what does your team consist of exactly, and what all are you trying to bring to the table right now in the current world?
Yeah, so I would say we have 8 full-time team members. Just to be high level, my executive team is myself, Jay Bass, who comes from a finance background, has an undergrad and a master's in finance. He used to be a financial advisor, worked at a family office with athletes and entertainers. Very just relatable and intelligent guy, high IQ, high EQ. He's going to be a star in the industry, Jay is. And then Annie Bailey has been with me from day one. She was my first team member, a very good friend. Annie is a rising star from a female perspective in this industry. She's my my vice president of business operations.
Okay.
So she oversees all of our client relations and then all of our back office business. So she oversees a team that works with the guys day to day. And then Jay, kind of with me, he helps from a business development standpoint of working with the guys on strategy, business, finance, so on and so forth. And then we have a team with client relations. We have a team with operations. We're building out a finance arm with a VP of investment soon. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm going to hit you up with our big question that we ask at the end of every show. And you can take this any direction you want. This is totally up to you. It can be something you've been wanting to get off your chest. It can be something you were inspired by from the show, something that's currently on your mind based on current circumstance, situation, whatever. But we ask everybody to give us their 2 cents, because at the end of the day, we're talking about common sense. We're talking about the common sense that we all employ. You can either gain some common sense, you can learn some common sense. You know, not everybody has common sense, but what's something you would like to share with the audience? It's just words from Mike. Your 2 cents.
My 2 cents. Embrace people that are not look like you. You know, don't be afraid of things that are different. People are different. Don't try to put people in a box. Don't be intimidated by people that have different views than you and different perspectives, different approaches.
Why are you passionate about that? Why does that resonate with you?
You know, my dad was black, mom's Cuban. I was raised by a poor white woman as a babysitter. I've just always been around diversity. You know, I value diversity. I think that when you're around that, although I am very pro-black, but I don't think pro-black means that you're racist or you're against something else. For me, I value everybody. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned are from people that are not like me, that come from something different than me, whether if it's race, gender, social status, whatever it may be. And so I just think that people should just embrace all people. I think when you do that, you grow.
I agree. I think we need to all look at each other as Americans, as humans, you know, and get back to that instead of trying to put everybody in a box or a category. I mean, you know, that's where you really get back to the rawness of being humans and sharing and learning from each other.
Absolutely.
Well, man, I want to thank you deeply for finally agreeing to come on the show.
Stop it.
And, you know,
it was the right season.
Yeah, it's the right season. It's the right vibe, man. I hope everybody enjoyed the vibe that we put out there. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the show. And, man, I'd love to have you back on again soon. But, man, thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to be on the platform, you and Biz. And I love the energy. I love the vibe. It's authentic. I enjoyed it.
Oh, man, I'm glad to hear that. Well, we'll be back next week with another great show for you guys. Until then, I hope you guys can take some good nuggets away from this and that you look forward to the next episode. Thank you for joining us.